Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. My hair looks insane. It's like the peak mushroom cut. How did this happen? Anyways, hope everyone's doing well. Don't mind my hair. It is August 29th. We're almost at the end of August. Crazy how the time flies. We're almost into September. My dad's birthday is this Friday, actually. And why don't we get going? The main headline over the past 24 hours or so was Goldman Sachs, right? Goldman Sachs has been calling for the next dip, saying that if you thought August was bad, wait until September. Blah. So they're going like doom and gloom when I'm looking at this market, and I think we're in severe oversold territory. So they've been scaling back the ambitions to push into mass market financial planning. Goldman Sachs has reached an agreement to sell its personal financial management unit, and the business oversees around $29 billion in asset and was built from United Capital, a registered investment advisor that Goldman Sachs bought for $750 million in 2019. However, the deal may not bode well for CEO David Solomon, who is seeing another strategy unravel after attempting to push into the mass affluent sector, only to renew the bank's focus on the ultra wealthy. And earlier this year, Goldman Sachs also put online lending service Green Sky up for sale, unraveling another deal for the Solomon era. So Goldman is looking a little more bearish, not just because of this deal selling, but they had a little more bearish of an outlook in the market as of recent. I think a few other banks are also looking at it in the same light, where I think September is going to be more cataclysmic. The way I see it is September, usually seasonality starts ramping up into the mid or end of the month before we start seeing some sell off into October. I think if we haven't bottomed in this current potential upward cycle in the market, I think that the bottoming probably comes today. We'll talk about the S&P 500 and what panned out yesterday and how this kind of went. But one of the main other things in news is the expansion of the EU. So the EU, right, has been focusing on the enlargement by 2030 in order to boost influence and assertiveness and also help remodel the global approach to development. Parts of the speech at the Strategic Forum also focused on not importing past conflicts to the bloc and the ascension process, but sticking to merit-based processes that outline economic, judicial, and administrative reforms needed for the membership. So the EU's last major expansion occurred in the early 2000s when the trade bloc stretched to Central Europe and Eastern Europe, but starting in 2010, a different wave of thinking arose. The European debt crisis, as well as the European migrant crisis, gave rise to Euroscepticism, which ultimately saw Britain exit the European Union during the Brexit referendum 2016, and struggles for the UK economy, COVID, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, has swung the pendulum back and forth for pro-Eurosism, though there are still many hurdles that need to be overcome in order to promote greater integration. And in 2022, in June, the EU accepted Ukraine and Moldova as formal EU candidates, while the bloc has also tried to push forward the accession process for several Balkan countries that have spent decades seeking membership. Georgia has also been recognized as a potential member, though membership talks with Turkey have currently frozen. And in the speech, Michel called some of those countries out by name by acknowledged that relative prosperity would not be followed immediately, but rather significant funds would need to be sent out for poorer countries to catch up. So realistically, Romania and Bulgaria just recently got Schengen, which is like a level up in the EU, I guess. But I think Bulgaria is looking to implement the euro in 2024, which I don't think is the best of decisions, but they want this crazy unity. But the EU is expanding as an economic power. The stronger and safer the EU needs to reinforce our bonds and become more powerful, he declared. The GDP of the future members states is about 50 to 70% of the smallest EU economy. And this means that to be they will be net participants, and while several current and net recipients will become net contributors, so we need to work out how to manage these complex transitions, so on and so forth. So this is it can become like a much larger economy. Not to say that necessarily there's too much of a financial market outside of the UK realistically, but in terms of other economic powers, the larger it gets, obviously the stronger it'll be, and the more influence it can have in terms of central banking, so on and so forth. In terms of other news, there's not too much. Yesterday, there wasn't too much. It was a slow, boring day. I forgot to mention yesterday that the UK was on a bank holiday, so there was less volume generally in the market. We started the market off the S&P 500 with like around $150,000 contracts traded, which pre-market is pretty poor. Not too much on the news wire today as well. Into the middle of the week, we have prelim GDP numbers that come out tomorrow morning for the US. We also have Thursday, the all-important Federal Reserve PCE inflation data, which the Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve consider their main inflation point. So that's going to be important to watch. And then on Friday pre-market, we have the non-farm payroll. So everything comes out pre-market. And I think there's going to be a lot of anticipation starting from Thursday into Friday on the S&P 500. In terms of the S&P 500, giving you guys some levels, remember yesterday we had the 44, 24, 25, which was like the main area that I was looking to buy. We had over 20-point moves from that level twice yesterday. It did happen later on in the session as we opened our live trading room to everyone. And again, so looking at this market right now, right, we're going to be looking at potential. I would want to see this thing continue to the upside, but I haven't seen too much volume for that to happen. Realistically, I do want to see I like last resort, right? 44.24 trades again. I don't want it any lower than about like 44.07. So 44.07 to 10 is like the final area where buyers should step in for the remainder of the week. We are seeing some sluggishness as we enter into these mid 50s overnight. These mid to high 40s are kind of struggling as well. So those are areas that we do have to consider as potential resistance points. Right now we're kind of in the midst of things. We have some volume that accumulated into these high 40s. So the way I want to play this is see if there's any sellers that come in around 44.45, right? There is some kind of downside pressure. There was a little more downside pressure yesterday earlier on the session before the buyers stepped in, but buyers should come out around 44.25, which is pretty far from where we stand right now. It's about 15 points, but that's the area that they should hold out. Before that, you got like these mid 30s, but right now you're in a very wild little range where there's lesser volume traded. There's a little more ambiguity as to what is going on. And I think that the buyers, they have to start running this up into 44.60, 65 today, and we'll see how that kind of plays out. I'm looking at this, right? Like into 30, I would say that would be a really good opportunity for the buyers to step in to hold a higher low and project this back to the upside. But I'm going to be very careful and very cautious off the open today because yesterday the bid kind of disappeared and then it kind of reappeared into the later session. So it's something to watch for as we open this live room for everyone. And don't forget that at 11:30 today, we're going to be going over some more order flow. We did some more order flow yesterday, and we're going to be doing these mini lessons all week long. So join us there. Good morning, everyone. Mark, my main source is probably like Financial Juice, taking a look at news, right? Stuff like that. You can get news everywhere, like News Squawk as well. But as it stands, we're going to open up our live trading room. It's open to all. You can find the link on our Twitter or in our, I feel like it's posted on Twitter if you're not on our mailing list. So hope everyone has a great day. Happy Tuesday. Happy August 29th. We have a few more days until August is over, and let's make the most of it. Close out this month well, and I hope everyone has an enjoyable rest of their day. Happy trading day, and we'll chat soon.